Okay, we're at the end of the year, and as much as I love to talk about strategic planning and getting your impact roadmap done, it's all for nothing if we don't also do an impact report, right? We need to say, what are we trying to accomplish in the year? And then at the end of the year, we actually have to report back. Did we accomplish that or not? And we can do that through an impact report. And I know a lot of nonprofits get kind of like overwhelmed by having to do all this planning and all this reporting, but you can do this easily every year. You can follow a template and just make sure that you get out your strategic plan and then you get out your impact report, and you can actually maximize the use of this so that they end up being marketing campaigns and your communications plan and your development plan. Okay, so these things aren't just like these things that we have to do and then we publish them and then we put them on a shelf. We can use them to really build a relationship with our community and our stakeholders and hold ourselves accountable, show our stakeholders and donors that we are actually not setting goals, but we're actually accomplishing them, or we're at least holding ourselves accountable to our mission. They're super important documents. And if you're going to be a nonprofit that is accountable to your mission and is accountable to all the donor dollars that you take in to support your mission, then you have a duty and a responsibility to not only plan, but also show your impact report. What did all of that support get your stakeholders and donors? But this doesn't need to be a crazy long process, and it doesn't have to take up a whole bunch of your time. Okay, but you do need to do it. So prioritize it. I'm going to show you today how you can do this in a simplified way. It's not that hard. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. And guess what? Your stakeholders don't need to hear your whole life story. Your stakeholders want to know, what did you do this year? Were you able to come in? What impact did you make? Were you able to reach your goals? And I'm going to show you how to do that today. So let's talk about it. Welcome to episode 37 of For Purpose Live, where I help you get clear, get focused, and make big impact by showing you how to step fully into the calling you've been given without taking on that common narrative that if you're a nonprofit founder, you have to struggle. I'm going to help you use your strengths and your talents to serve this world and build a movement for your mission simply by living for purpose, on purpose. I'm Rebecca Britt, your host, and today we are talking about the impact report, which should be a really exciting thing for you to develop. I feel like the only reason we wouldn't develop these is because we are overwhelmed by how to develop them or how to show what we've really been doing. But once you develop this, you're going to get super excited because this is like your progress report, right? This is like, why do you exist and what impact are you making in the world? This is all the stuff that you know you're doing, right? You see people, you hear anecdotal comments about your mission, you see what you do for people on a daily basis that makes your heart warm. This is the document that allows you to articulate that to stakeholders, where they pick it up and they're like, wow, they get the same feeling and fire that you have for your mission, okay? So we're going to talk about exactly how to build that in an easy, simplified way that doesn't make you feel overwhelmed, okay? So before we dive in, I have launched a Secrets to Running a Thriving Nonprofit Without Killing Yourself, because I know that there are too many nonprofit founders out there that just feel like, why did I even step out in faith and do this if it was going to be this hard? So I want you to know that you do not need to feel that way, and that it wasn't intended for you to step out in a calling and not feel supported. So head on over to forpurposelive.com/secrets and you can get immediate access to that web class today. Okay, so let's talk about building this impact report. And you can just open a Google Doc and get started. You can do it while you're watching this because I love productivity, right? Okay, so first thing is, what did you do to accomplish your mission? That is the number one question. Put it at the top of your Google Doc. What did you do to accomplish your mission? So literally go back to your mission, and if you are developing life skills for healthy transitions into adulthood, if you are, helping people find their dignity after addiction, whatever your mission is, what did you do this last year that helps you accomplish that? Okay, because what happens too often is we get so sucked into our programming that we start writing this impact report of all the things we did in 2022, but not necessarily all the impact we made. So that's the differentiation. Is this something we did, or is this impact we made? Because the only thing that should go in your impact report is impact you made. So some things that might not make it in there are like, oh, we, did this big fundraiser this year where we got all this support. Did that really make an impact? I mean, maybe it did, but I feel like it's one of the things that you did to kind of make your impact, meaning it supported the programs that's going to make your impact, and that's what you want to report on. So your whole story is your mission. So you want to think about, if you are somebody that develops life skills, if you give job coaching, how much job coaching did you do? How successful were your participants? Okay, so think of like some of your big things that you did and the things that made the most impact. So how many lives did you affect? If you put a legislation out there, how many laws did you get passed? How much legislation did you introduce? How many people adopted your model? How many kids went through your program? How many teachers were you able to reach? Like, who are the people that you're serving and what was the impact on their lives? Okay, so that should help you kind of decipher what you're going to talk about. You're going to really stick to kind of your programs. Okay, so think of all the things you did in 2022. And you can list them all out. If you had a big event, if you did webinars, if you did whatever. But nobody wants to hear about like, look at all the webinars we did. Okay, why do I care? Okay, look at how many people we educated on the importance of trauma-informed response in schools. Cool. So one of the ways in which you did that was through webinars, but nobody cares that like 500 people attended your webinar, right? Because they could have just been like listening and what could have been mandated by their employer, whatever. So you want to talk about what that webinar got people. Okay, so we had 500 teachers trained in trauma-informed teaching or whatever, being trauma sensitive in their classroom. So definitely think about what your mission says you're doing, and then you want to articulate how your programs actually helped you accomplish that mission. Okay, so we're not going to talk about the activities we did. We're going to talk about the impact we had. Why does it matter? Why does it care? Okay, so then you're going to think about, what data do you have to support it? Okay, so we just talked about we might have 500 registrants for a webinar. Okay, but what does that really look like? We want to talk about, we taught 500 providers. So as much data as you have, go back to who attended your Zoom calls. Maybe that's something. Who attended your programming? Who graduated from your class? Those are numbers that you have that you can have as big metrics. We had 10 people complete our program, and people want to see big metrics. They do want to see numbers, okay? We distributed 2,642 backpacks. Our volunteers gave 10,500 hours to this program packing food for someone, okay? We were able to give a quantitative number for something. Now, if you can go a step further and actually say why that matters. So we were able to give, 100 hours of mentorship. And that led to 82% of the kids in our program developing life skills for positive transitions into adulthood. So if you can come up with a percentage number of that number of people that participated, because participation is like, okay, that's great. But let's say we have kids in a juvenile justice program and they're court ordered to participate. So to say like we had 20 kids go through our program doesn't matter to me as much as if you said we had 80% of those kids not commit another crime within 6 months. So you're going to have to decide, do you have the data to support it? But you could maybe reach out to a case manager and say, hey, listen, we really need to evaluate whether or not our program is helpful in the long run. Is there any way for us to understand how many of the kids that go through our program do commit a crime within 6 months? Like, is there any way we can track that? Work with your partnerships with Department of Justice or whoever your strategic partnerships are to kind of get the data of the long-term result. This might be parents. Maybe you have kids go through a program. Just ask them to report. Did you see behavioral improvements within 6 months of the program? If they report that, you can say, 100 kids went through our program and 92% of them had positive behavioral improvements as reported by parents. That's huge, right? So that's what I want to see as a donor. So what metrics, what data do you have, or could you get your hands on to make these big, yummy numbers to put in your impact report? Okay. Then you always want to pepper it with beautiful pictures. And yes, you can use stock photos. I know nonprofits have a lot of participants that they cannot put their faces on. That's fine. You still need to tell the picture. Or still tell the story. So go get stock photos of people that look like those you serve. Put that in your impact report. And then put quotes, okay? You want to be collecting qualitative data as well. And this is usually really the easy part for nonprofits. We have a whole bunch of stories and not a whole bunch of data numbers, right? Quantitative numbers. So you want those quantitative numbers, but you do want stories, okay? So you can do a long form story like a case study, but what's really powerful, because people usually don't take the time to read anything, what's really powerful is if you just pepper the page, so you have yummy metric of 92% of the kids didn't commit a crime within 6 months. That's like, darn, that program's awesome. And then you have a quote from a kid that says, I didn't know what to do before this program, didn't think my life was worth living, and now I'm excited about pursuing college, whatever. A quote. Maybe a parent was like, my kid was on the wrong path. He had been arrested 3 times, but since he's been in this program, I've seen him actually take an interest in school and he's got a better friend group. Whatever the testimony is, make sure you're reaching out and asking parents for those, or you're asking your participants for those. Have them tell their story. Put all the stories in a storybook. Do something to give back to them if they're going to give their testimony, give their story for you. Don't just say we need testimonies and then leave it at that. Tell them how you'll use their testimony. Tell them that you'll put their testimony on, you'll paint it on a wall at your facility. Like, make it fun, make it people feel like they're a part of something, offer them a sense of belonging for giving that testimony. Okay, so I've been talking about layout a little bit, and I know a lot of people are like, okay, once I get this Google Doc done and I've articulated like how we've accomplished our mission and we've collected some data or whatever, how do I actually lay this out? So simpler is better. So you can do, a cover page and have it say your impact report for 2022. You can have about you, but I would have key highlights, a page of key highlights. So you're taking your key highlights from, let's say you have 3 different programs or a couple of your different programs, key highlights for the year, 92% of kids didn't commit a crime, maybe, whatever your other programs did. I would do 3 yummy metrics, maybe 1 standout quote for your key highlights. Then I would do 1 page per program. And on each program page, I would have a couple metrics. So 100 kids went through the program, 72% of them developed life skills. We had 100 hours of volunteers give to this program this year. So 3 yummy metrics at the top about the program. So if people are like, those are cool metrics, but I actually don't know what this program is, maybe just a little like, this program, the purpose statement of the program, this program matches up mentors one-on-one with kids for 10 months out of the year so that they can develop life skills, whatever the about statement is for that program. And then under that, some pictures, a quote or 2, and that's it. Okay? Yummy metrics. What the heck is this program about? Some quotes, some pictures. And if you want to add like a why this matters, that would be bonus points. So a why this matters little paragraph that's just like, we believe that by investing one-on-one in every child that we will end generational trauma, like some big why this matters. Bring it back to like the whole why it's good for society, not why it's just good for the individual. Even better. Next page, next program, yummy numbers. What's it about? Some pictures, a big bold quote or testimonial, and then why this matters. Next page, next program, yummy numbers, about, what's this about? Some pictures, a quote, why this matters for society. Why should anybody care? Okay? Less is more. People want to usually include like a letter from the executive director, looking forward, these like long drawn out. We made several strategic partnerships this year. We were able to build a barn on our property. Da 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 da. Just think about the criteria for inclusion is, does it matter to your mission? So yes, if you launched a huge capital campaign for $1 million and you built this amazing facility, call it out. But if the Eagle Scouts came out and built your, a shed or some benches, probably don't call it out. The big things are your programs and why you exist, and you want people walking away from your impact report going, dang, they are doing a lot. They're keeping kids out of jail. They're feeding people. They are making sure kids develop life skills. They are doing the actual things their mission says. You don't want somebody walking away going, wow, they're raising a lot of money. Wow, they're throwing great galas. Wow, they're building a lot of buildings. Like, it just, yeah, that's cool, but like, you need people to care about your cause. You don't need people to see how great you are at fundraising or how great you are at getting participants or how great you are at getting people to like you. You want, this is another communication piece. This is another awareness piece. This is people going like, wow, I didn't even realize that there were so many kids in foster care in our community. Wow, I didn't realize there were so many people that needed so much help. They're doing really good things. Okay? So it's another piece that you're going to talk a lot about your participants, your mission, the issue you're solving. So when people walk away from it, they're like, I want to give to that. You want them to think, wow, they're really doing a lot of good for this population and I would like to help them. You do not want them to walk away saying, wow, they're really good at running a nonprofit. They've done good things for them, and not even think about the population you serve. Okay? So it should be that easy. Title page, who you are, some key highlights. These are the key things we're about to talk about. If you only have 1 second to read one page, this key highlights page is the one. And by the way, you can screen grab or just take out that one page of your impact report, and that is your key highlights. That's your infographic. That's what you get to share out. If you know that there are people that you're going to talk to, maybe your e-news that is not going to read through your whole impact report, then you can just use that one page, that key highlights page, and that's your brief version of your impact report. Okay, so only include what people care about. Less is more, and now you're done. But I don't want to just wrap up this episode with that, because you didn't just do that to do that. I want to talk about utilization for a minute, because nothing matters if you don't use it. So how do you maximize this document now? You have this document, how do you maximize it? You're going to send it out to donors, okay? This is our impact report. And you're not just going to send it out to donors one time or stakeholders one time. You're going to send it out to them and tell them what they did to help you accomplish. So look at all we were able to accomplish for you. I remember distinctly getting it was actually in the mail, which if you do direct mail, I believe in it because it made me give. So I got a direct mail from a local nonprofit, and they gave me their impact report. They actually pretty much just gave the key highlights. So it was just one page and said, this is what we were able to do this year. And because their key highlights were so good, they showed how many hours mentors were there. They showed how many volunteer hours. They showed how many kids were able to be served, how many gifts they gave, like all of this stuff, great little metrics. I actually saw the infographic first, did not read any of the text because nobody wants to read text. And once I saw all the impact they made through their infographic, I went back through and said, okay, they did a lot of good stuff. How can I give? What are they asking for? Guess what? I read through the letter. They were not asking for anything, which made me like them more. I was like, oh my gosh, they are just saying, as a donor, as a past donor, Rebecca, we owe it to you to tell you what we did with your money, even though my money wasn't that much. This is what we did. Thank you so much for your support. That was it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go give to them. And I gave more than had they said, please give 100 or 50 or whatever. I went on, I gave $250 or something, because I was like, they were accountable to their mission and they treated me with respect as a donor, and they felt like they needed to be accountable to me, and they sent me something that was just a report and not an ask. So I strongly urge you to do that. Take your impact report, take the key highlights portion of it. If you only get key highlights done, you don't have time to make a page for every program, at least do that. Do something, do your key highlights, one infographic of something that you did that are kind of like your high metrics, some quotes, some pictures, so that people understand that you do have some impact and that you want to be accountable to them as supporters, okay? So send that one page to your donors, even if it's through email, do that. But if you do have this whole impact report now, you have a few pages of how each program has been successful, guess what you have? You have a whole campaign for your first quarter. How appropriate is it for your first quarter to just be a campaign about what you were able to accomplish in 2022? Take all of your pieces of the impact report and take it into bite-sized pieces. 1 week can be, or one meme, one social post can be one of the metrics that you did. Another social post can be another metrics. Another social post can be one of the quotes that you did. Another quote that you did. And always talking about why this matters, why your program is solving a problem, what it means for bigger society, okay? So maybe you take the first 2 weeks of the year and talk about one program. The next 2 weeks, talk about another program. Maybe you take a whole month to talk about one program. All that data and content you just pulled together for your impact report, make it your next quarter's comms plan, okay? Because you need to continue to tell your story and people want to hear about their impact. And just because you wrote an impact report and put it on your website doesn't mean anybody got it. So you've got to spoon feed it to people. So that's how you maximize it. Don't come up with all this content and then I wonder what we're doing for social media. Now we need to come up with all this stuff. And now we need to come up with a blog post. And now we need to come up. No, each one of the pages of your impact report can be a blog post. Let's talk about this program and its impact in society and why it matters. Let's talk about this program and its impact in society. This is where you can get a little more granular and really talk about your beliefs and your inspiration behind the program and the heart of the program. Maybe you got 4 different testimonials about a program, but you could only include one in the impact report. Well, in the blog post, you can put all the data you have about it. Okay? So it's taking one thing and maximizing it for your community, really. Like, what I love about it is that it means I have to do less work, right? I just take it and I use it for all these different platforms in all these different ways. But for your community, it's really helping them understand, because very few people will probably actually read your impact report. So you want to be able to use it in multiple ways. Okay, so you should have an impact roadmap, or that's my simplified version of the strategic plan. So every year you're coming out with this is our strategic plan for the year. And I would have these on your website as an accountability measure as your nonprofit. 2022 strategic plan, and then follow it right up with 2022 impact report. 2023 strategic plan, 2023 impact report. And what's nice about this is if you do these well, you pretty much have your comms plan for the whole year, because the whole year you can be talking about, you can start Q1 with all your impact from 2022, start Q2 with what you're doing in 2023. Okay, and then you've got different stuff going in your comms plan, and you can wrap out the year with more telling your story from your strategic plan and from your impact reports. I love leveraging these for your communications plan, because all people really need to know is what you plan to do and how well you did it. So that's the story you're going to continue to tell people. Use these plans and reports as your communications plans, okay? We'll recap real quick. Going through, open a Google Doc. What did you do to accomplish your mission, okay? Your story is your mission. So don't think about how many people came to a webinar or how many people came to a gala or those types of things. Think about whatever your mission is, what did you do this year to accomplish that? Now, do you have data to support it? Think about all the data you have on hand that you can use for yummy quantitative metrics, and that you can actually put big in your report so that people see some big numbers, like number of people that participated, but not just number of people that participated, how many people graduated, what was the percent that developed life skills, what was the percent that didn't go on to commit a crime, like what was anybody better off because of your services, okay? And then you want to pepper in those pictures, those quotes, and you want to think about including less and only what people care about. So if you're reading through this, does this really speak to our mission? Does it tell a story really well? And it's somebody going to go, okay, I get that. I care about that. All right, guys, I hope that has inspired you to just get this done. Start small. Even if you can just do your key highlights, do that. I would love for you to tell me in the comments one of your yummy metrics. Like, what was one of your impactful metrics, like number of kids served or percent of kids that actually went on to do something. I would love to hear one of your yummy metrics in the comments. And it will also, if you show up in the comments as your nonprofit, it will show other people your nonprofit and the big impact that you're making, right? That's what we all want. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for your service to this world. Until next time.